Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another Gamer Chat video, guys. For those that don't know, Gamer Chat is basically a podcast series in which where I basically talk about all video game related news, anything in particular going on in my life, or any particular updates going on in the channel. Basically, sort of like a vlog slash podcast slash update thing, you know, all that fun stuff and everything like that. And there's a lot that I would like to cover, especially considering the fact that we went through December, where we had the PlayStation wrap-up, along with the Game Awards, and several reveals was revealed during that time. We also have the fact that this month, supposedly, sometime later on this month, we're supposed to be getting Switch 2 reveal. So yeah, there's some updates on that one, along with a few little personal stuff that I wanted to talk about here and there and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and just begin with the talk, shall we? In terms of my personal side of things, we have just recently started down decorating. As of the timing of this recording, it is the 15th of January, literally halfway through the month. And we are just now starting to down decorate. As you can clearly see, the Christmas stuff is officially down. And as I've been down decorating and stuff like that, I've also had some little, what you call brainstorm ideas kind of popping into my head and stuff like that. Along with a few projects that I want to do and everything like that. I have a few little display ideal projects that, you know, until they get revealed, I'm not going to do them immediately. So they're going to be like future projects and stuff like that. But essentially I'm going to be adding an extra shelf, specifically at the end of this particular shelf, for like some of my smaller figures and stuff like that. Going to be updating the shelf where the TV is. The figure shelf, I'm calling it the figure shelf, but I mean there's other figure shelves. But whenever the time comes, you'll understand where I'm getting at. And then, of course, I'm planning an add-on on the record player desk, the record player stand thing. Again, these are all things that I kind of thought of in my head. They're not going to be immediate, but they will eventually, at some point in time, will come around to being worked on and stuff like that. There's also a few pre-orders that I've made. One big pre-order, which will be revealed probably in August of this year. I know that's a long ways off, but you can done tell I'm doing really good right now. Procuring a pre-order for a future unboxing. So look forward to that whenever that comes around and stuff like that. There's a few other unboxings that whenever they do get around to being shipped, you'll see whenever they do get shipped and everything like that, what they are and stuff. Aside from that, though, I had a really good holiday. Hopefully your holiday was just as good, but my holiday was really nice. One of the biggest things that I got for Christmas was the entire collection, the entire DVD box set of the Escape to the Chateau. For those that don't know, Escape to the Chateau is basically a DIY series that was developed specifically for British Broadcasting. But there was this family, basically, that moved to France in the hopes to buy a chateau, because apparently the chateaus over in France are in disrepair. So naturally, it's a lot cheaper to buy these chateaus, but because of how cheap they are, that means that the chateau is in that much disrepair. We're talking about dating back to almost late 1800s, maybe even earlier than that. So it's one of those things where it's like very, very old buildings and stuff like that. A lot of repairs that needs to be done and stuff like that. And I remember watching this during COVID-19. During COVID-19, me and my family, we watched it, Escape to the Chateau. Originally, it was like a, I forget if it was on, I forget what channel it is now, but it did get moved to Peacock for streaming services and stuff like that. And now you can't watch it anywhere except for British Broadcasting Pacific subscription services. So I was like, well, shit. But I found out that they had a DVD box set. Specifically, at their website, they actually do have their own DVD box set that they specifically made for anyone who wanted to watch and stuff like that. And I wanted to have it. That was like my biggest thing that I wanted to have. And I'm right now rewatching it, and I'm watching it. I've already got up to season 3. There's a total of 9 seasons. I'm on season 3 of them and everything like that. And it's been enjoyable watching them rebuild the chateau that they have owned it, and basically building it back up to current standards, followed by just trying to kind of build their own business. And it's really interesting to watch them kind of grow in this way. It's really enjoyable. I really loved watching them during COVID-19, and I wanted to rewatch them again, but after a couple of years and changing rights and stuff like that, obviously made it impossible to watch it at all. So, but I'm glad I got the DVD box set, and because of the fact that PS4 and the PS5 are not region locked, I can watch them whenever I want to. So that's awesome. I love that. I love that so much. Outside of that, though, did get a couple of games here and there, obviously. Whenever I get around to them, I will be doing a review of one other game. There's another game that I recently played. Well, not recently at this point. I've beaten it in December. And I will do a review on that one whenever I get around to it. But I also mentioned of how I wanted to replay through the Jak and Daxter series. And I did that. I've replayed through and beaten all of the games. Jak X was probably the hardest game to beat. For those that don't know, I'm not that big into racing. I'm not a big racing fan. But Jak X was pretty fun. It was fun until I got done with the first 2 cups. And I got to, for those that don't know, Jak X has a total of 4 different cups. Now, you might think that's relatively small, but each individual cup has a series of events that you do and stuff like that. And I went through the, I went through the red cup, the green cup, and then by the time I got to the blue cup, all of a sudden things got a little bit harder. And I'm like, oh, crap. I was just like, oh dear gosh, what am I about to get myself into? And it was a doozy. It was a doozy trying to get through the game and everything like that, but I did beat it. I know in the past, Jak 2 is considered one of the hardest PS2 games to beat. And as I was replaying it on the PlayStation 4, I started to realize a few things. One of them is that the game plays a lot better. I mean, that's to be expected, you know, it's on the PlayStation 4 for crying out loud already. But it plays a lot better. It's a lot more smoother. There's a lot more polish and care that was put into Jak 2. For those that don't know, Jak 2 on the PlayStation 3, it did have a little bit of a issue in 1 or 2 scenes. Another thing that they did was that they basically made it to where whenever you use your weapons, they didn't do damage to your allies, which was very nice, because that was probably one of the most often things that would happen during some of the games, during the game and everything like that, is that when you're trying to do an escort mission, your firepower just ends up hurting your protectee people and stuff like that. Specifically the one where it has the 3 goons in the sewers as you're on your way to Mars statue again. And that's always annoying. That was always annoying because, you know, you have 3 guys that you're trying to protect, and there's a lot of enemies that can show up out of nowhere. And, you know, if you're like me, you carelessly use the blaster spin tactic, and that particular ricochet will also hit your allies. The good thing is that they fixed it to where it didn't damage them. So that was very nice. As soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, this makes it a lot nicer, actually. Unfortunately for hovercrafts and everything like that, they still get destroyed within 2 or 3 good hits. And it's like, oh, crap. But outside of that, though, the game was a lot more enjoyable, in my personal opinion. I definitely enjoyed just reliving through the games and everything. I also played through Dragon's Dogma again. specifically because I wanted to replay through it. I've been wanting to replay through it on the PlayStation 4 to see if there was any improvements in terms of gameplay and stuff like that. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of improvements in terms of the frame rate. The PlayStation 3, the frame rate was very horrendous at times. Thankfully, on the PlayStation 4, all of that have been resolved, so it plays a lot nicer. But I have forgotten how unforgiving the game can be at times, especially in the early parts, and it's like, oh dear lord. I did beat the game. I haven't really done everything in the game. I don't know if I want to go through a new game plus cycle on it. You know, trying to do all the other stuff, try to max level, beat Bitter Black Owl for that matter, which is the DLC expansion that they had back when the PlayStation 3 and everything. But I had not beaten the Bitter Black Owl section. I've never beaten the Dark Arisen section for that matter. So I don't know if I want to do that or not. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm only at level 57 at the time that I beat the game. And I'm like, oh, what's the max level? 200. Wow, I did not realize it was that. Oh, wow. Okay, whoo, boy. I guess we'll find out as we go through this month. I do want to play through Dragon's Dogma 2. I recently got that, so I would like to eventually play through it whenever I get a chance. So, that's something to do. A few little projects here and there that I still need to do in terms of video production and everything of that nature. When I get around to them, I will get around to making those videos and stuff like that. With that being said, though, let's get on to video game news. So, we had the Game Awards that happened last month. And the biggest news of them all was Game of the Year. So, if you remember, whenever I talked about Game of the Year, I thought that, you know, we had Black Myth Wukong, but I thought to myself, it probably isn't going to get Game of the Year. It did at least get Best Action Game, which makes me happy. Makes me happy that it did get Best Action Game. I was a little bit skeptical at first because of Stellar Blade, but no, it did win Best Action Game, so that was very nice. But Game of the Year gave it to Astrobot, which was a very big surprise. A very big surprise. Delmar was playing through it during December, and no, actually he started it because he got it for Christmas as well. He started playing it right after Christmas. And he beaten it just before, I believe he beaten it after New Year's, I can't remember. But as he was playing it, he was telling me I could see why it won Game of the Year. And I'm interested to try that out, see what that game's like and stuff like that. But congratulations Astrobot for being Game of the Year. That was a very big surprise for me. I did not expect it to win Game of the Year, but it did. It's going to get a lot of new add-ons and stuff like that. I mean, it's already had a couple of add-ons here and there. And it's now going to get even more add-ons from what it sounds like. So that's pretty crazy to think. During the Game Awards, we've had several reveals that was made. Let's talk about the most obvious one. We have another DLC for Elden Ring known as Night Rain. I was sincerely shocked that we're already getting another DLC literally after the Shadow of Erdtree DLC. Shadow of Erdtree took it a couple of years to get a release, and now we're getting Night Rain. We've already gotten a reveal trailer and stuff like that. And as to looking at that trailer, I was like blown away because this feels like an entirely different game overall. Like, it feels like it's a complete different game compared to what Elden Ring was. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? You know, it's just, oh my gosh, this game just got crazy. Now, on the one hand, I don't know if I'm ready for Night Rain, because after seeing some of the stuff, I'm just kind of like scared, you know, after what Shadow of Erdtree did to me. For those that don't know, Shadow of Erdtree, it's very hard, very challenging, thanks to the fact that you have to look for these shard fragments, which is basically an extra level enhancement for whatever reason, and it's just, holy crap, the game is hard. I've beaten Radon, which is basically the final boss of the Shadow of Erdtree. And this is a completely different Radon. This is a different Radon. Well, maybe, yeah, it is different. It's still the same Radon. It's just different movesets, obviously, different setup and everything like that. But this particular Radon was definitely harder. It was kicking my butt, and I've had to resort to kind of cheesing it, you know? Hide behind a big-ass shield and stab it with Scarlet Rot, and that seems to do the trick. You know, that seemed to do the trick. I didn't die as quickly, and it eventually died. But outside of that, though, I do hope that whenever I get around to playing Elden Ring again, with a particular build that I'm wanting to try next time around, I hope to get through Shadow of Erdtree again, but this time not have to go through it as painful. There's still a couple of bosses that I still love. For example, Bale is an absolute joy to fight, along with Mesmer, the main boss icon that Shadow of Erdtree is known for. I definitely would like to go through it again and stuff like that. It's just, again, the game's harder. So it's just one of those things where as soon as you realize it, you just go, guess I'll just die. But Night Rain is looking terrifying for me, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't think I am. After Shadow of Erdtree, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know. But that's the DLC. As for the other game reveals, specifically the ones that I'm interested in, we have Onimusha Way of the Sword, a new Onimusha game, a brand new one, not just a HD re-release or anything like that. This is a brand new one from the way this looks, and not much is shown, but from what I gather, because I hadn't really played through the series, I've only beaten one, and I'm looking forward to playing through the rest of them whenever I get around to it. But it's just to see that it's finally getting a new release, that's very exciting to see. In other news, we also are getting a new Okami game. Okami sequel is what it's being named to. Obviously, that's not going to be its default name, because from what I've gathered from the trailer, there's not much you can go on except for the fact that it's going to be higher quality of game. But it's just, oh my gosh, to think that Okami is getting a sequel and everything like that. It's only had one other one, which was a prequel, and I believe it was only released for the 3DS, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to look at that and see if I'm correct on that or not, but that's the only one I've been known of so far with the prequel version. This is an actual sequel, they said, so that's cool to see. I'm looking forward to that. And then Naughty Dog's newest IP. Yes, Naughty Dog, after a decade long of like just Uncharted and Last of Us, we're finally getting a new IP, and it's called Intergalactic. It sounds interesting. It sounds promising. Right now, it's a little bit on a controversial subject on a lot of things that I agree with. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm just going to wait until the game comes out and see what people say. And if the gameplay looks good, because right now we only got like a cinematic ideal of what it is and stuff like that. We really haven't got like a gameplay depth of it. But from what they've talked about, this is going to be more gameplay focused as compared to Uncharted and The Last of Us, where they're more story-based related. So to see a more gameplay focused game, that's going to be interesting to see whenever they get around to getting this game fully released and stuff like that. I hope to see more gameplay of it and see what the gameplay is going to be like and stuff like that. It looks like it would be good. It's just a matter of like wait and see type thing, you know. Like I said, ever since The Last of Us, Naughty Dog has just not really been that invested with anything. They've just been mostly wanting to re-release the same things over and over, except for whatever reason, Jak and Daxter, which, I mean, they got around to re-releasing all the Jak and Daxter games. I know that's kind of been a surprise, but I'm just glad that I got around to play Daxter on the PlayStation 4. And it was actually really nice to play through with the new PlayStation emulator that they recently started working with and stuff like that. And this is actually my first interaction using the emulation stuff and everything like that they have. And it feels nice. It feels nice. It's different, but I like it. I like it really well. So, but Intergalactic, it's a wait and see thing. We'll see how it turns out whenever I get around to it and stuff like that. And speaking of DLC and reveals and stuff like that, the team behind Black Myth Wukong, in celebration of having it won 2 different awards. I know one of them was Best Action Game, but I forgot what the other one was. They revealed that they are going to get a new challenge mode and map. The details are not that descriptive. Challenge mode, I'm guessing, is a more harder difficulty settings. Game's already hard enough as it is. Why do I want a challenge mode unless challenge mode gets unlocked after you beat the game? Because what I will say this is that when you beat the game, it doesn't get harder. Which is weird, you know, it's weird. You have multiple playthroughs that you have with the game. You carry all your stuff and everything like that. And yeah, it's just it doesn't get harder. It just stays the same difficulty. It's just depending on where you level up Wukong and everything like that, depends on the difficulty and everything. So in my personal opinion, it's just been fun. It's been enjoyable. So to see a challenge mode, it's going to be interesting. I wonder if it is just like a beat the game, beat the game, unlock challenge mode. That would be interesting to see. But also map. That's what's interesting. The wording, challenge mode and map. Makes me wonder if we're going to get add-on chapters, you know. Because that was one of the things that they talked about whenever they talked about DLC, was that they wanted to deliver a bigger in-depth story with Wukong. In fact, more so, I've learned, was that the very last animated cutscene, whenever Wukong beats the Wukong boss fight, it's titled Unfinished, which means, if I'm relating to what I'm thinking, it continues on afterwards. So after chapter 6, it continues on in which where the Wukong character eventually fights off against the celestial heavens and stuff like that, in order to avenge Wukong or to replace Wukong, however way it wants to word it and stuff like that. So we'll just see how it goes. I am looking forward to that. Also, too, I didn't get to mention it last Gamer Chat, but last month was the release of the physical version of Black Myth Wukong. Yes, Black Myth Wukong is now available physically for PS5, which that makes me happy. And according to the Amazon listing, as well as Best Buy listing, it also includes the deluxe edition, which is very nice. I do like that. So definitely plan on picking that up whenever I get around to it. With that said, I want to go ahead and touch bases a little bit with the 2024 PlayStation wrap-up. For those that don't know, I do these things quite often, doing the PlayStation wrap-up and everything like that. I like to talk about it just to kind of compare what I did last year and stuff like that. Not a lot goes on, but this one's actually a lot more descriptive in terms of like what all was going on and stuff like that, and I do like that. So let's kind of get a look at it, shall we? So apparently, according to the PlayStation wrap-up, I've played a total of 25 different games in 2024. 15 PlayStation 5 and 10 PS4 games, which is very interesting. And he even goes on to say that my first game that I played was Witcher 3 Wild Hunts. For those that don't know, I played through The Witcher 3 for BlackCross Favorite Games channel. and I did a platinum run, which was my very first platinum trophy for 2024. And I played the PS5 version of that one specifically. The next section tells about your top 5 most played game of that year. The Witcher 3 only acquired up to 62 hours, which was in 5th place. 4th place was Black Myth Wukong, ranging at 89 hours. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, 90 hours, just an hour over Black Myth Wukong, and that was because the amount of content that they put into that game, like a lot. And then 11 hours over Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was Metaphor ReFantazio. I had beaten that one, and I've been meaning to go back to beating it and everything like that, but that will probably be later on this year. We'll see how things go this year. But the number 1 most played game of this year was Elden Ring. Obviously, Elden Ring, the reason for that was because of the Shadow of Erdtree DLC. Makes perfect sense. But also, too, 2024 was kind of the year that I started kind of watching through a lot of YouTube content in which where people made challenge runs of specific builds. For example, can you beat Elden Ring as Wolverine? Can you beat Elden Ring as the Grim Reaper and stuff like that? And it kind of gave me ideals of like specific builds that I wanted to play through and stuff like that. And I was doing a sorcerer build. It was fun to do until I got to the Shadow of Erdtree. Once I got to the Shadow of Erdtree, that's whenever things just fell apart. I was like, no, ow. So yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, experimenting with a new build, probably best not to take it to Shadow of Erdtree. If you're planning to beat Shadow of Erdtree, make certain it's a build that you're ready to rock with. If it's just an experimental build, don't do it. Just don't do it. Shadow of Erdtree will test your limits. It tests mine many a times. The next section said that 53% of my entire games was mostly based on RPGs, which is not a surprise. If you know what type of gamer I am mostly a RPG fanatic, so that just makes sense. Although they had another section after that, which is basically a calendar setup. It's like, it basically showed me each month of what game I played through the most, which I thought was fun. I kind of liked that. That was really cool and interesting. Obviously, January was The Witcher 3. February was Infinity Thrash. I forget the title of it, but it's Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. I played through that one. It was alright. I liked it pretty well. March was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Specifically, it said Integrate, but technically I replayed through the PS4 to try to platinum it and everything like that, and then I played briefly on the PlayStation 5 Integrate in order to play through the Yuffie chapter. So that was something that I did. And then the next month was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is not a surprise because that's whenever it came out. And then May was Unicorn Overlord. June was Elden Ring. And I believe, July was Elden Ring as well. August was Black Myth Wukong. And then September was Still Rising. That was good. October was Epic Mickey Rebrush. November, Metaphor ReFantazio. And December, which I'm sure that probably would be different. I don't know. With a total of 16 hours. Maybe not quite beating it. But Sandlands was my December game. Of course, this was before I played through the Jak and Daxter games. If I remember correctly, none of them really reached past 15 hours. So I imagine Sandlands was indeed my official December game that I played. Sandland was really good. I do plan on doing a review of that one whenever I get around to it, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, in terms of trophies, I want to specifically focus on the Platinum Trophy. Everything else is pretty relevant, but I platinumed a total of 6 games. in 2024. Last I checked, I'm pretty sure that number is still the same from previous wrap-up. So far I haven't really done more, but I imagine if I had done this after I had beaten the Jak and Daxter games, I think that number would be different. I think that would be somewhere around 8 or 9, depending on the wrap-up. But yeah, so about the same, if not somewhat more, depending, like 1 or 2, we'll say. Now then, the question is, what do we hope for this year? Well, this year, the biggest thing I hope to actually have it be a more calmer year, because even though we've had the reveal of Intergalactic Onimusha as well as Okami, from what I've read, they will not be released until 2026. So we still got another year before they get released. So there's a good time period. I imagine Kingdom Hearts 4 will still be a little bit later until they do a reveal of some kind. Supposedly, Missing Link will be revealed at some point in time. I do not know. Poor people and the freaking mobile game. It just seems to continue being delayed. I do not know why. But anyway, so Missing Link is still delayed at the moment right now. We still have no news in terms of Kingdom Hearts 4. When that news comes up, that's going to be interesting. Whenever they do finally reveal it. I doubt it's going to be a 2025. It will probably be either 2026 or 2027, depending on when we get information. If we get information anytime this year, depending on what it states, depends on the release, obviously. And we're still waiting on that one. Now, supposedly, Lost Souls Aside is supposedly scheduled to be released this year, from what I've read. So, Lost Souls Aside is going to be released this year, so that's going to be interesting. We also have Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, 3D HD, for those that don't know. After the release of Dragon Quest 3 HD 3D, they announced that they were going to be doing a Dragon Quest 1 and 2. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting that. Still need to get Dragon Quest 3 whenever I get around to it. But I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be cool. I can't think if there was any other ones that's coming out this year. But if any do, I will be sure to give updates on those things and stuff like that. Obviously, with this being a new year and everything like that, my current plans right now is that I just want to get back into the swing of things of making videos, editing them, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a while before we get a consistent schedule of video releases and stuff like that. Obviously, the PlayStation 2 Legacy will be back on schedule in February. In February, I do plan to release a next episode of the PlayStation 2 Legacy. I also have another secret project or two that I plan to make at some point in time, so that's going to be interesting to do whenever I get around to them. I also have a couple of reviews that I will be doing probably either later on this month or next month, depending. In terms of BlackCross Favorite Games channel, I am currently fixing to start on Assassin's Creed 3. Currently, I'm releasing the Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy, and the next game will be Assassin's Creed 3. In terms of Twitch, I will be streaming whenever I get back to streaming, of course. I hadn't been back to streaming, which I probably should explain what's been going on in that area. I hadn't streamed since December. The first reason was because, obviously, holidays. Second reason, I got sick. My sinuses were out of whack. Everyone's getting sick, and every single time I get better, it feels like I'm getting sick again. And then, if it ain't that, we also had a snowstorm that happened a couple days ago. And what's even funnier, we had a power outage that happened. Only lasted for like about 30 minutes, maybe at most. But then, for whatever reason, that power outage basically knocked out my modem for the internet. So I had to call Spectrum and get a new one. However, though, okay, I want to talk about this because of how smooth this was, okay? So I'm just letting you know right now, no one's paying me. I'm just talking about it from experience. Spectrum has been a worry-free service thus far. I've been with them for 8 years, going on 9, and they have been a worry-free service to work with compared to the one that I had previously when I still lived with my folks, which was Frontier, which was a pain in the ass. Everyone will tell you that. Frontier is the worst. Whenever I went to Spectrum, it was a relatively easy setup and everything like that. When the modem went out, I had no internet for a couple of days, so I was like, okay, well, obviously I have to get this fixed. So the next day I called them, and I was only on the phone for like maybe, I want to say 20, 25 minutes. Not waiting. In fact, really, I waited very little. It was like, I got on one part and I asked them, I basically said to them, I said, I need a new modem for my internet. My modem went out. And they're like, okay, hang on, we will get you to repair service. And I'm like, repair service? Wouldn't be technical support, technically? But it's like, whatever. So they took me to another one. Didn't have to wait that long. The other person was very nice. After giving my name and address, they immediately confirmed that, yes, the power was out, has not come back on. And whenever I told them that there was no light going on in the modem, they said, yeah, we'll just have to send you a new one. And they were like, you can easily pick up one. And there was a problem with that, because the nearest facility, the nearest shop for Spectrum is basically a couple towns over. As I had stated before, we had a big snowstorm that happened, which means driving is out of the question, especially for an hour-long drive. So I told her this. I said, we have a problem with that. The nearest location is like 2 towns over, and we recently had a snowstorm happen, so I can't really get there. And she's like, oh, well, we can mail it to you. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. Mailing to me is not a problem. So they mailed it to me. Literally only waited a day after the phone call. They basically said it would be there tomorrow. It came in the next day, and I basically did all the setup. Didn't take but maybe like, if it wasn't for the fact that I was stupid, for about 30 minutes, it probably would have taken like 10-15 minutes. So yeah. But yeah, everything's back in order, and I'm just very surprised that Spectrum was that smooth, you know? So easy and everything like that. So, no issues to report, so I'm really happy with that. But yeah, the next game that I will be Twitch streaming sometime this month, hopefully the week of this gamer chat video that I will be releasing, the week of, rather, I will be streaming through Killer 7. That's what it is. I will be Twitch streaming Killer 7 next in terms of the PlayStation 2 Legacy Twitch streams. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. We have the Nintendo Switch. Supposedly is supposed to be announced later on this month. We have not gotten any more updates. We've heard rumors, and there's been a big rumor, especially Scott Daniels' interest. Poor Delmar. The Nintendo Switch 2 is set to be revealed this month, will be released in March, and the launch title will be Mario Kart 9. So, newsflash on that last bit that I said. The Nintendo Switch 2 has been revealed today, as of the 16th rather, mere 8 hours after I recorded that. The Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed, with all the details. Well, not all the details, but just like a glimpse of what we're going to be seeing. It's about what we expected was a Switch, but obviously better built slightly. The biggest detail that I saw was that, number one, the Switch Joy-Cons do not longer slide in, but rather they connect in. So that's going to be interesting how that is and everything like that. It looks like there's also going to be a new docking system. Hopefully a better built docking system. Hopefully one that produces a better cooling system for the Switch and everything like that. But we'll find out more details on that. Because apparently they're going to be having their own, it's going to have its own Direct on April 2nd. So on April 2nd, we will get a full-on detail of the Nintendo Switch 2, along with the launch titles, which, as it turns out, is indeed Mario Kart 9. From what we saw in that trailer, Delmar lost his absolute mind whenever he saw that, because it turns out that, yes, the rumors were true. It's funny, because one of the, I forgot his name, I'll have to stay on what the name is, but he even mentioned of how he hated how the leakers leaked out this information and were correct. So it's like, I don't blame him, I really don't. It's getting stupid these days, but at the same time, too, that's just part of the trend now, sadly. But yes, as of right now, technically the 16th, it has been officially revealed. I did record it like 8 hours ago, and that's been updated since then. So now it's like, oh, better go ahead and just update that. So yeah, the Switch 2 has been revealed. We know for a fact that it will be backwards compatible to regular Switch titles. We know for a fact that the Nintendo Online will be carried over to the Switch 2, which means NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy Advances, those things that they have built into the Nintendo Switch Online will carry over onto the Nintendo Switch 2, basically extending the lifespan of Nintendo itself at this point, which they should continue. I hope they continue it, because that's literally the biggest thing that I look forward to. But one more thing I do want to talk about is the Nintendo Switch sales. Now, I haven't really looked at the numbers recently, but last I checked, which was like about a week ago, it was currently set at 145 million units sold, as to compared to 157 to 160. I don't know when it got updated, but last I checked it was 157, and someone said that it was at 160, and I'm like, how could it have sold 3 million in just a short time? Like, what happened? So I don't know. I know technically it's like 157 point something or other units sold, but it wasn't like 158 exactly, so I don't know on that one. But last I checked, Nintendo Switch was on 145 million units, so depending on when the release of the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, depends on how fast or how slow sales for Switch becomes, you know? If you were to have asked me a year ago, I would have told you I would not be surprised if Switch beats the PlayStation 2. I would not be surprised. Now, asking me now, with all the current stakes going on, it's at 145 million. Switch 2 will soon be announced any time now. It will be literally announced at any moment. So, in order for it to beat the Switch, in order for the Switch to outsell the PS2, it would have to accumulate over, at least in my mind, it would have to do 14, if not 15 million sold within a year. Because after the Switch 2 comes out, sales for the standard Switch will slow down. It will slow down tremendously. Which isn't a bad thing. If nothing else, it will just be replaced with the Switch 2. So in other words, while people are still getting the Switch for collector's sake or whatever, the majority of the audience will be gravitated towards the Switch 2. So naturally, depending on when the Switch 2 gets released, will depend on when we see that decline for Switch sales. I do not see the Switch being outbeaten. I don't see the Switch beating PS2, but depending on how long they continue the life cycle of the Switch, depends on if it ever actually beats it or not. It will be interesting to see for the next couple of years. So, on the one hand, I wouldn't be surprised. On the other hand, it's going to be really interesting to see how things go from here on out. It would be interesting. In fact, I would be very shocked if, like, say, before the Switch 2 gets released, we hear an update saying, Switch has now sold 155 million units, which is literally touching the PS2 line. And it's like, oh, wow. I would be surprised if it did that before the Switch 2 gets released. But if it doesn't, I don't think that's a big deal. I think it's just very interesting to see how close we are to seeing such a milestone being beaten. It would be very interesting. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.